we need to quickly unlearn, unpack, and then rebuild. Of course, have a very, very deep understanding of whichever business you are in, irrespective of any kind of leadership role. Understand your business. You should be demanding performance, but you should be supportive to take people through that journey. Money should not be the determination factor for the job that you pick up. I'll not say take risk with your career, but be experimental with your career.
At Masters Indian Business School, we're bridging the gap between industry and students through our CXO sessions. In our CHRO Exchange initiative, today we have Mr. Abhishek Mehrotra. He's the Chief Human Resource Executive at Yubi, and he's previously worked with renowned companies like IBM, Huawei, ByteDance, to name some. Welcome to the show, sir. He's also been an angel investor with some young startups, and I think he would give us the great mix of how human resource and business landscape are binding together. So today we venture into the space of human resources. So yes, sir. So my first question to you is that how did you discover your passion for human resources and what led you to it?
So actually, I never discovered. It's like a career by accident, if you want to call it. So I did my master's in economics and marketing, and I started off as a trainer. I used to train on technologies.
Okay.
But very early in my career, I got exposed to leading teams, to building some of the talent. And when startup was not a word in our dictionary back early in 2002, 2003, I was part of a setup where we were the first 3-4 people hired to start the whole journey, and that gave an exposure beyond just my core job as a trainer.
Wow.
We wrote almost every process manual. We wrote almost everything to do with quality or recruitment or HR or finance. A lot of that stuff happened, and which kind of gave me that exposure very early. And when you are management and you're exposed to multiple environments, you get a hang of working with people.
Yeah.
And then during the course of my career, I evolved from being a trainer to being skills and competencies, look at how talent is grown, and eventually landed into like a full-fledged HR role. Probably I kind of figured out that calling after some time, say about almost 7-8 years of my experience initially, when I realized, okay, this is something I want to do, and I took the plunge. So it happened not planned, like many, but eventually it's been a phenomenal journey.
Great. Thank you so much, sir. So there are a lot of probing questions here, sir, that, what sort of, since their journey has been amazing to a lot of us, what sort of, valuable leadership lessons you had learned at each of these stages when you were growing and when you were a manager to when you were a CHRO, like how has it been throughout? Like how was the lessons that you've learned overall? If we
I
could
think
let our students know.
a lot of my learning has happened like on the job. A lot of learning is by practical experience. So I'm not sure if I can list down leadership lessons per se, but I guess like many of us, I learned by being in a situation. So there were tough situations of restructuring organizations.
Yes.
There were situations where you had to change the entire talent landscape of the company because the organization was moving away from the core business model and evolving, and that has its own sets of learnings and challenges. There were times when you had to speed up the organization in terms of output, in terms of execution. There's sometimes when you are building the basic building blocks of an organization. So every stint of mine and experience of mine has taught me some of those things. And honestly, when you reflect back, you see what you have learned. When you are into it, you don't realize. So, but I guess in my mind, if I have to kind of step back and think what leadership is about, I think leadership is about, first things, the context of the situation in which you are in or the organization in which you are in. Every context, every situation would be different.
Right.
And even if it's the same situation, the application of your of what you want to do there will be different because the business model will be different, people will be different, or the leadership people or the other CXOs around you will be different. So I guess leadership is about contextualizing a lot of what you are and where your organization is in that time.
Yeah, so it'll always be very specific
Very
to that
specific.
situation.
So that I believe for any leader is very important to realize. A lot of us come with a lot of experience in previous stints, avatars, organizations, even within the same organization in a different role. But we need to quickly unlearn, unpack, and then rebuild ourselves first.
Yeah.
That what solution worked last time will not work now is not a necessity. So that I think
Right.
is very, very important for any leader to kind of go, because we get caught in our own success or failures of the past.
Right.
So that I think is one. Second, I think, of course, have a very, very deep understanding of whichever business you are in, irrespective of any kind of leadership role. Understand your business, because your solutions, your suggestions, your plan of action will depend on the on how well they are crafted for the business that you're doing. And I think third is have a lot of empathy. You should be demanding performance, but you should be supportive to take people through that journey.
Absolutely.
And last but not the least, at least my experience taught me, leadership is a lot about taking those tough calls. A leader may not be the most popular person around,
Absolutely.
but you end up taking tough calls whether the organization is doing great or the organization is. But it's about taking those tough calls at the right time. And
Yeah.
leaders who shy away from that become popular in a short term, but long run the organization suffers.
Yeah.
So I guess these are 3 or 4 things that have stayed with me throughout a long time of my career.
Yes, sir. So hard decisions have to be
Yeah.
taken at a lot of times, and we'll have to be one has to be
Yeah.
in order to be a good leader, I guess. So, sir, now if we could venture into a little bit of your interest. So, we hear that you have active interest in early stage startups, right? So, sir, if you can let us know what sort of sectors excite you at present, or do you feel that we'd love to know the companies you're interested in? I mean, if that's not a problem.
No, so I'm kind of a rookie in this.
Okay.
I've not done much.
Okay.
And I think the story was a little more different. It was never about investing. So I had some time. COVID, we had a lockdown. Probably we had more time at hand, and I was looking at it, and I was always like, in the past, I've always fascinated how somebody in a 10-15 minute pitch can gather funds. I was always keen to. I have not done a startup. I have never done a business pitch to kind of thing, and I was always interested in that. And one of my professional network person introduced me to one of these groups. They said, okay, these guys are phenomenal. They bring curated startups. You listen to pitches every Wednesday and Saturdays.
Wow.
And you can invest. So I said, okay, what a great idea. If every Saturday I have like an hour or two to listen to some of the best pitches that come in. And my, again, selfish interest, being an HR person, okay, let me look at some good talent that is out there. Let me look at some good ideas. That's how I started. And I started attending those. And then as you attend, you get intrigued. I guess that's what founders bring to the table. They kind of, a lot of them are able to sell a great idea. And that took me, okay, let me start doing some investment. The idea was again to learn the process of how, from an idea inception to taking it to life, to garnering funds, to showing return to the investors, and to your own audience, how does this ecosystem work? Because I have never been like in a startup before.
Right.
So the idea was more to learn, and in that process I ended up investing in a couple of them. Not much again. And then of course after that I had joined Yubi. Of course time becomes a little more rare commodity when you're in a role with an org like Yubi, but off and on I still kind of try to make that time, and that's how. But the investments have been into a cloud tech. It has been into consumer FMCG space kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And of course, it's been also into something which was in race some time back, which is your podcast and Meta AI. So
Okay.
very small. One of them didn't survive,
Okay.
but yeah. That's how it's been the journey. And of course, you are in a group of a lot of people. You keep on seeing a lot of information that's happening. So it's an ever-evolving learning journey. Probably I'll take a full-fledged plunge once I have more time at hand.
Okay. That's great to know, sir. That's very interesting. I think it was an accidental good thing that happened.
Yeah.
And that's, I think good things are always accidents. Like even the journey, I was reading somewhere that, United States as a whole, like how they are now, has always been an accident. So I think that was
Yeah.
accident, and yet they are now the hegemony of the world. So
Yeah.
that is pretty interesting. So, sir, now that you have worked in tech, R&D, social, now you're in a fintech company. In all these projects, the paradigm of work has purely shifted from the COVID era to now it has become to a hybrid sort of a format. So what do you think are the challenges of a hybrid work from an HR point of view, from a human resource point of view, and how does one mitigate that, or what is your recommendation for those sorts of things?
I think challenges are always how do you keep your team inspired, motivated, understand the mission for which the organization is, and keep them kind of at it.
Okay.
With remote model, hybrid model, the kind of demographics that is entering the workforce, I think all these are shifting paradigms in the same context. The problem statement remains the same, and then if you are a diverse organization or a huge organization spread into multiple locations, cities, geographies, the challenge becomes how do you keep that glue together to come for everyone to come and understand in the same context. And a lot of context, see, unlike the traditional working way, which was where everybody was always together, and a lot of dissemination of context, the values of the organization, what you stand for, what is the mission you're working for, were not only through communication, but they were through informal communication channels of like me and you working together and kind of imbibing how things are moving. A lot of it is through observation. A lot of it's through experience in the organization.
Yeah.
Now, with hybrid or say remote work, and Yubi is a different way, we are in an office organization because we believe fundamentally that's the right thing for us to do today in our context, in our early stages of our build out phase. But there are a lot of organizations who are hybrid or are completely remote. Now, I think the complexity that is in it, that it's very difficult for you to kind of bring that into perspective for everyone uniformly.
Right.
I don't think so. It's ever easy going to be to build a culture over Zoom calls, right? Somebody who has it's like selling, making a restaurant and have every customer only virtual. They never experience the service. They never experience the ambience. They never experience the ecosystem around it. So it becomes all the more difficult. So I think that's the problem, and I think a lot of organizations, and it's not about HR, it's about leadership, it's about people, they're still trying to figure out. And that's the reason you see a lot of organizations who, post-COVID, who took a call to be completely remote or hybrid, are now changing tracks. At least at Yubi, we were always consistent that we'll always be work from office. Of course, there are flexibilities available for people to take care of needs, especially caregiving needs, medical needs. Those are still there. But are we a remote organization? No. Why? Because in our journey, we're just 4-year-old startup. We have scaled a lot, but we still have a long way to go. Absolutely. So we cannot do it with people not kind of collaborating together. So for us, it's about collaboration. And I think that's exactly the problem. How can you build collaboration without diluting the essence of the organization? I think whether you are a hybrid or you are completely remote or you are in person, collaboration is the key. And that's how the context setting happens, and that's how people see and learn from each other. So I guess post-COVID, that's the bigger challenge. And in my own wisdom, I think organizations that are pivoting too fast, who are taking some short-term decisions on, let's say, things like remote work versus hybrid work, I think are facing a lot more problem because it's difficult to change human behavior. It's difficult to disrupt a lifestyle. So I think it's better off to take a call and then stay with it, rather than trying to experiment basis the mood and the opinion that is happening in the organization or what you hear from like I said earlier, a lot of it depends on what stage of evolution you are as an org versus somebody else. So what worked for them may not work for you. So take long-term calls and stay with it.
Absolutely, sir. So, sir, dialing down on the collaboration bit, what role has networking played in your professional life? And if you can share one experience with a mentor that you really look up to, and which had the biggest or the most unexpected impact in your life?
A lot to think that, but I think networking is about gaining outside in view. So irrespective of whatever profession or field or stage of your career you are, the more you kind of get an outside in view, the more enriched and informed you are. So I guess in my case, what I do is, of course, other than reading through whatever social platforms and information, and we have enough of information now. So I think now the problem is more about distilling the information that you need. It's like an
Yeah.
information overflow for all of us
Yeah.
than what it was, say, 15 years back or 20 years back. But I guess a lot of these industry events give a lot of insights. You get to see a lot of people. I think one of the ways that that works for me at least is whenever I'm able to make to some of these industry events and networking sessions, there you get to listen a lot from some of the young companies that are coming up, some of the new products that are out there in the market. One of the things that I have personally experienced is, long back I used to be a regular at an ASSOCOM annual HR event, and happened to see a very young company coming up there talking about employee experience and how they do it. And I was very fascinated with the way they did it. Practically after 6-7 years, I actually got them to work with one of my previous orgs and now here also. And I've seen that organization evolve phenomenally, and that has really helped us in as an HR team to be more efficient and ahead of the curve than kind of chasing the curve. So in HR, traditionally what has happened is that you take a lot of time to discover what's happening, what's the pulse on the ground, and then you make some action plan and then you go about it.
Yeah.
Now with technology, you are able to kind of be ahead of that game. And that actually discovery happened because I happened to be in an ASCOM event where I happened to walk into one of these tracks where this young chap was 19, 20 years, I think it was 22 years, was giving a talk on what he's building. And then I just got interested, and after a few years we bumped in and we said, okay, why don't we kind of try this for my org? So these are powerful ways of networking. And of course, I think whether you are a student or you are a professional, getting outside in view is very important. Talk to more people. And like I pick up a lot from what I read as well as what I talk to some of my professional colleagues within and outside the organization. You also get a lot of insights when you're meeting candidates from other organizations. You get to hear a lot of some of the best practices that those are. So there's enough and more. So like I said, there is a lot of information now.
Yeah.
You need to distill out what you need and then pick up what you would want to pick up and go with it.
That's very motivation, amazing, sir. That one accident can just make
Yeah.
you change your entire perspective. That a young fellow is building something like this.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's amazing. So, sir, like now, if we talk about a little bit of work-life harmony, so been throughout like your busy career, how do you find the balance between your career and your personal life, and any strategies that you have deployed to maintain your health?
I think, and everyone has a take on it. My own personal view is it's about work-life integration rather than work-life balance. I'm not too fancy of the word work-life balance. I don't think so. Life is never balanced. There's always be some ups and downs, whether it's personal space or professional space. I think what you have to figure out is how you balance, instead of balance, look at integration. Your work, by and large, and this is also because of the evolving nature. See, long back, probably when we started our career, it was about, okay, this is the time you go to office, this is where you're working, and then this is your personal time. Whether it's a 6-day working or a 5-day working, didn't really matter then. But now with phones and with communication and with technology, you're always at it everywhere. So the call that the person has to take is what works for me when, and take those choices. And I tell this to a lot of professionals, especially women, young women who are starting their career or who are going through a life stage change, whether it's having a family, whether it's getting married. I think Indian ecosystem still looks in a certain way. But I guess it's about taking those choices. So there will be certain points in your life when your family needs you more than the organization, and that's the time it's the onus on the organization to make sure they enable them, they provide all the ecosystem that is needed to make sure that they have the time for the family. Like at Yubi, when we have an extended maternity break with salary beyond what the law requires, it's a long period, and then after that also you can extend. Or let's say if someone is getting married and they need to relocate to a different city where we don't have an office, we have an option for them to work from there till the time the work is getting managed. So relocation is possible. Some of those policies that we enable as an organization, because at that stage of their life, that's needed the most. There are certain years of your life when you need to give your 110% to the career to make sure it flies off. And there would be times when your family would need you more. And it's okay to take that back step and go through that because your family is needing you, and then come back and start again, or rebuild again. So I think it's about prioritization, it's about defining your priorities. So for me, it's like work-life integration, and each one of us is different. Some of us are okay with getting an email on the weekend and responding to it, some of us are not. Those are choices that we make. So I don't think so any organization or ecosystem can solve it.
Right.
It's more of an individual choice and what you want to do at that stage of your life to kind of make it happen. So again, that's my view, and that's how I look at it.
Thank you so much, sir. So as we near our end of the session, just wanted to understand any positive message, something that you'd like to give to young professionals and students out there who would be listening to this podcast.
Yeah, I think the world offers many opportunities now. So don't limit yourself only to thinking, okay, if I have done an MBA in marketing, that's the only career for me. Okay, there are a lot of career opportunities, and the ecosystem allows now a lot more career pivots than before. Just because you have studied a stream doesn't mean you have to live your life in that. That's one. So pivot. I think that's very important. Second, especially when you're starting your career, stay with that career for some time. A lot of times we end up for few lakh rupees or for some other motivations of life, we jump very quickly. You have to be in the role, especially in the beginning part of the career, to learn how to apply the knowledge that you've gained in college. So stay with your first job, or say the first 2 jobs, for some time to build that depth and the domain experience, what you want to do. That's very important to build a very strong foundation. Third, long-term careers are always built horizontally than vertically. And what I mean by that is, if you are today, for example, if you are a front-end engineer, then you will become a back-end, you will do a full stack. Today you are in finance domain, tomorrow you can be in a social media platform. So horizontally, get exposure across different verticals rather than chasing a title for a vertical growth. Okay, today I'm an associate, tomorrow I'm going to be a team lead. Don't go for that. Those opportunities will happen. So when you build your career horizontally, then it's a much more longer successful career ahead. So that's the third bit of advice I give to any young professional who's doing it. And last, money should not be the determination factor for the job that you pick up. What you're going to learn in it, how much the organization is going to be invested in you, or let's say if you're running your own business, you don't leave your business tomorrow, right? Because somebody offered you a salary, right? When you start a business, you stay with it. Yes. Same way with the org. When you start with the org, money should not be the determination factor. Money is important, but I think a lot of students who are running out, they have a good ecosystem to support them.
Yes.
So take the right choice, not factored by money, but by the exposure you get, the kind of work you get to do. You may be in a very small firm, but doing a lot more valuable work than being part of a large setup where you are one among the thousands. And if that company is paying you more versus the small setup, I think small setup is a better way to go, because that will give you a lot more exposure, to the point that I was saying that I got very early in my career and exposure to work across multiple things beyond just my trainer as a domain. Yeah. And that kind of helped me in the long run. I guess the same thing should happens even today. And while you shouldn't, I'll not say take risk with your career, but be experimental with your career.
Right.
Like I said, not necessary to stick to the same thing, doing everything every day for many years. Life becomes boring beyond that, right? So and of course, have a lot of fun. I think that's something is important. We sometimes get too serious about work, and then we lose the mojo.
Great, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. We're really thankful you're here. And yes, we wish everyone the best of luck in their careers.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, sir.